I hope you learn to prioritize the people who bring you peace, the people who mirror the same length of love as you give others, the people who stand by your side, not in every moment, but rather in the moments that matter the most. The people who have the capacity to understand the very depths of your soul. I hope you learn to prioritize the people who choose you. And that was posted on Instagram by Lisa Messenger. One thing we are always going to do here is have an opener. And the opener is always going to mean something, irrespective of whether it relates to the theme of the podcast. Whew, that opener is big. It is big, especially it's very telling of like my life at the moment. Honey, when you have certain milestones that you reach in your life, not everybody can come on that journey with you. I've always said this to you. I've always said it, be it let's just say you've been promoted at work, maybe you've achieved some academic accolades, marriage, birth, death. Some people just cannot come on the journey with you. You have a few people that come on lifetime journeys with you, but not everybody will come on those journeys. And I think something that I've learned over the last few months is reprioritization. And I'm talking about reprioritizing everything in my life and also understanding where certain friendships sit. I'm really blessed to have a small circle of people who I will call lifetime friends, and those are the people through the ups, the downs, and the ups and downs in their lives and the twists and turns in all our lives. Our friendship has not only remained, but it's grown, and we've all been there for each other. My friendship groups are very separate, I have to caveat that, but I don't have friendship groups per se. I just have different pockets of friends, and they are not friends with each other. But there are also some people that have really shocked me, especially whilst becoming a mother. People who I expected to be there for me, and I say the word expect because it relates to the type of relationship I had with them, and they just didn't show up, not once, not twice. So when people show you who they are, you have to believe them. I wish I could sit here and tell you I'm angry, because it would still mean that I care, but I just don't. Disappointment is a common theme in my life, and I've just learned how to deal with disappointment when it arises, and I just want to thank therapy for that. Don't schedule meetings after 4 p.m. I think that's what I'm calling this episode, and it's based on an article on Vox.com written by Rani Molla, and it's the idea that, number one, you should try to avoid scheduling meetings after 4 p.m, but also exploring why people do that. But we'll get into that a little bit later. For those of you who are abreast on the local news, you will know that Nigel Farage, and he was like, I want to sit here and say he was a pioneer, but I want to say chief advocator of Brexit. Nigel Farage literally campaigned his life away to ensure Brexit happened. And now that it's happened, it seems like he has missed a vocation in life. Like, it just appears that he's looking for a new cause. And his cause is Coutts Bank. Now, before I get into Nigel Farage, you will all remember the podcast episode before this one called The Chase. And on that podcast episode, I spoke about like finances coming off the whole, extending from the whole financial literacy, financial health and relationship with money and things like that. And I spoke about not having a bank as a single point of failure, but I've opened an account with Chase Bank. And actually my main account was with NatWest. And NatWest actually owned Coutts. Now Coutts Bank is like one of those elite banks, right? You have to have a certain amount of money to be able to bank with Coutts. That's the whole thing. So there's a certain echelon of people that can bank with Coutts, yeah? I remember many years ago, I worked for a company as like a company PA, and two of the founding members who I worked for actually banked with Coutts. The way they talk to you, they literally, I thought they were going to offer me cheese and crackers over the phone. They are posh to Ross, okay? And when I say there's certain echelon of people, I'm sure like certain celebrities, black celebrities who earn or make a certain amount of money bank with Coutts, because also I think there's a thing about banks like Coutts whereby I feel like certain banks know how to manage certain people's money. You get a private banker and things like that, whereas there's a certain amount of money you could be earning. NatWest is not going to be enough for you. Barclays is not going to be enough for you. For me personally, it doesn't matter how much I'm earning. Me, I'm banking on a high street bank, because the way Coutts treated Nigel Farage. Now I'm going to go on record to say I don't like Nigel Farage. I don't believe in anything that he says and all his ideologies. I just think he's a deplorable human being, and I think the fabric of his personality was really shone through during the whole Brexit debacle. And basically, Nigel Farage received notification from Coutts Bank. Coutts are owned by NatWest Bank, and Coutts basically said, you can't bank with us anymore. And we don't need to tell you the reason why. So Nigel Farage was like, excuse me, do you know who I am? Okay, I'm making that bit up, but you know what I'm trying to say here. And he was like, how can you tell me that I can't bank with you anymore? And they offered him alternative banking arrangements with other banks or made suggestions or whatever. So then he, under the Freedom of Information Act and under data protection, and there's another thing as well, but I can't remember it, he requested his file and to know why Coutts Bank are no longer allowing him to bank with them. He then found in there that it was because he holds certain political views that do not align with Coutts Bank. And as a result, they do not want him banking with them. Now, we can already see the problem here. A bank cannot try to regulate what private citizens believe in as a prerequisite for whether they bank with you or not. It's actually quite discriminatory in nature. And to top it off, they also then said when Nigel Farage took it to the media, Coutts Bank then said, well, it's because he doesn't have enough money in his account, so that's why we are no longer offering banking facilities to him. So the CEO of NatWest Bank allegedly divulges information about Nigel Farage to the BBC and says to them, actually, it's because he doesn't have enough money in his account, that's why. And she then resigns as a result of the fallout of this, right? And also, the CEO of, or director of, one of the directors of Coutts Bank, I think it's the CEO actually, he then resigns. And then Coutts then issue a further statement basically saying, basically trying to do a patch-up job, because I think what Nigel Farage has actually done is highlighted the amount of power all these banks actually have. And it's the power to close banking facilities without having to justify to the account holder the reason why. Now, if we're looking at that, some of you are probably thinking, well, I don't bank with Coutts Bank, what's that got to do with me? Well, it has a lot to do with a lot of us, because this could be NatWest, this could be Nationwide, well, less so Nationwide, but it could be HSBC. Any of these banks could literally withdraw your banking facilities without having to justify the reason why. I have a podcast. I'm a private citizen. I share my views here. I talk about macroaggressions. I talk about the racist infrastructures in which we work in. I talk about the monarchy. I talk about everything here that affects especially black women. NatWest Bank could decide to withdraw my banking facilities because they may believe that my views do not align with their views. That is how these banks have the power and an unfettered power and are abusing it. And this is why, in as much as we do not like Nigel Farage, we can put that to one side, we have to also accept what he's highlighting here, because up until 2 weeks ago, the banks were doing this to people all the time, just withdrawing private banking facilities. I read an article where this man, he was banking with, I think it was either NatWest or HSBC. And basically, he was no longer working, so he was claiming benefits. And then the bank wrote to him and they were like, well, you know what? We no longer want you to bank with us. They never gave him a reason. So he could only deduce from that he had banked with them for over 20 years and he was working for 20 years of his life. Banking, all his money was going into that particular bank account. And then, because now he's on benefits, maybe his money's not good enough. And that's what he says. This is all alleged, by the way. But there's a lot of people that can relate to this. A lot of people. I think banks have too much power. I remember when I was at university, and you know how we are at university, literally living in your overdraft. I had no concept of money. My financial literacy was in the bin. It was rubbish. And I had a savings account with HSBC. So I was banking with HSBC, I had a savings account with HSBC. And my student loan was going into my HSBC account. And I was overdrawn. So in my savings account, I must have had like 1,500 or something. And I was overdrawn by £2,000. Do you know that HSBC took the money from my savings account, put it into my current account so that I would no longer be in an overdraft, and did not notify me of it? When I challenged them about it, they said, well, it's in the terms and conditions that they're able to do it. And now I think about it, actually, no, because they're two separate accounts. You can't be doing that. But it shows you the power that these banks actually have. Even at a very young age, obviously, I didn't know what to do, and then I realised, bloody hell, I have no savings. So I tried to save. And one can turn around and say, well, Toya, you were that bad with money that you was in overdraft anyway. They're probably looking at my accounts and think, no. But I had a student account as well, so they already know how students operate and a student behaviour when it comes to money. It wasn't like I was overdrawn £5,000. I could understand it then. But even then, you still notify the person. A bank has to notify the person if there was going to be a change or there's a decision that they're making that financially affects someone. To withdraw banking facilities from anyone is effectively pulling the rug from underneath someone and say, go and find another bank. That effectively means am I still able to use my bank card? I've got direct debits. Do you understand? The power these banks yield is unbelievable. And this is what has then urged the government to write to all the banks and say, you cannot withdraw banking facilities from private citizens or otherwise because their views or their social media, whatever, does not align with your bank ethos, whatever it is. Because an argument could be had, well, maybe these banks need to tell us what their ethos is so that we make a decision as citizens whether we want to align with these banks. I'm not going to lie. I messaged Kay. I said, Kay, should I withdraw all my money from NatWest? Because I don't like NatWest's behaviour, personally. I think it stinks. And they own Coots. So NatWest, Coots, one in the same as far as I'm concerned. But also as well, it made me think, like the fact that the government then had to write to all these banks, I took it a step further in my thought process. There is a very well-known hair shop in North London. Now, it's been operating, I'm 38 years old. I've been going to that store since I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. So we're talking about 30 years of operation here. Okay, over 30 years, sorry. And I remember going into the store, and this was like a few summers ago, and the man that owns the store, everyone knows him, yeah? So I walk in the store, it's like, oh, you're right, Toya, da-da-da. Bear in mind, this man has known me since I was 7 or 8 years old. I'm now 38, go figure. And he says to me, no. And so he says to me, how are you, da-da-da. I says, oh, I've moved, I've moved from North London. He goes, yeah, I know you've moved to the East. I was like, no, I've moved outside of London. So we're all having this conversation. There's these other black women in the store. And then this Eastern European guy walks into the store with his missus. And basically, he tries to open a packet of something. And the owner of the hair shop says to him, you can't open that. And also as well, you need to wear your mask. Because this was during COVID times. So he's like, no, I don't need to wear my mask. And I'm opening this because I want to see the product. He goes, all right, you want to open it, whatever. But you're going to wear a mask in my store. Then the guy goes, the Eastern European guys go, he says, oh, well, I've got a store. I don't understand what the big deal is about the mask. He goes, and then the owner of the hair shop says, oh, I don't care if you own a store. I'm telling you that when you walk into my store, this is the rules of engagement. You have to wear a mask. So they're going back and forth. And then the Eastern European guy goes, you do realise I've got 2 stores. You've only got 1 store here. I don't know why you're acting as though you're so important. Me and the other black women, we weren't having it. I said to the man, listen, he doesn't want you in his store, so get out. No one cares how many stores you've got. At the end of the day, you're here coming to chat shit. But the reality is, if you want to buy anything from this store, you have to wear a mask. And this is the owner. And if you don't have respect for him, mask or not, get out the store. So all the other women, they're cussing him off. I was the only one that didn't cuss him. I just told him the truth. The other women were like, get out of here. Who do you think you are? You can't just come up in here like you own the place. All of us. He got what he wanted, boy, because he got a dragon. And then the woman turns to us and was like, you can't speak to my man like that. I turned to the woman. I said, listen, You don't want it. Babes, you're in Tottenham. You do not want it. These are not your ends, babes. This is not your store, babes. But that is your man. Go get your man. Anyway, they ended up leaving the store. This is like COVID times. Emotions are heightened, innit? Because everybody's wearing masks. We don't know if we're all going to die. But I think what was so significant about that interaction was what happened next. So the owner of the store then turns to all of us, and there's like 6 women. And he goes, oh, thank you so much. He goes, one thing I always say is all my customers are loyal. He goes, but you know what? So at this point, the Eastern European guy and the wife leave. And I know it's a wife because he kept telling us it was his wife. They leave the store. So the owner was like, you know what the crazy thing is? This guy that has now just left my store can barely speak English. He's probably been in the country, less than 5 years? He goes, I've been in this hair business for over 40 years. I've had this store for over 30 years. I only have one store. This man is talking about how he has more than one store. I have one store, and I have one store because anytime I apply for a bank loan to open another branch, I'm being rejected. I'm not being told the reason why. It goes, this store alone makes almost £1 million every month. He goes, the lowest we earn here, we make here is probably 750,000. He goes, you've got to bear in mind that I have this store, and the barber shop at the back of this store as well. He goes, we do hair, we do everything. And we've been operating for over 30 years. But yet, I can't get a bank loan to open another store. And I know I can't because I'm a black man. But they will never tell me that. They will never tell me that because they don't have to justify why they reject me. They just reject me. And I remember just thinking to myself, that's just disgusting. Especially because I would have expected by now, this hair shop owner would have owned multiple branches. This is a popular hair shop. Everybody goes there. There's surrounding hairdressers. Everybody goes there. There's nothing you can't find there. Is it soap? Is it shea butter? Is it hair products? You name it. International products. All these products in this store. And I make it a point when I go to North London, I don't buy my hair products from nowhere else. I'll buy it from him because it's black owned. But to understand from him how pained he was that he hasn't been able to, create a franchise or create more than just that branch because of basically institutionalized bank racism, I felt quite sad for him. But somebody like myself, who I consider myself an entrepreneur, I thought to myself, if he can't, how would I? And this is the reason why, as much as possible, I fund everything I want to do. Because I'm not going to rely on a bank. I can't, the interest rates anyway are crazy. But if I wanted to take a loan out a bank loan because of XYZ, the hoops I would have to go through as a black woman, I don't even want to have to comprehend that, especially when I know I'm trying to pour into my community. I say this to say, and I draw this example to say, what Nigel Farage has highlighted isn't new. But the difference is a white man has highlighted it, a white man with a platform, and a white man with looking for a new cause. So suddenly, the government now has issued banks with all of this. But if we actually really get to the crux of this, if we're really trying to lift the lid on the actual power banks have, what are we going to find? Are we going to find layers of discrimination when it comes to mortgages? How much does your last name affect your ability to get a mortgage? How much does your last name affect your ability to get another mortgage, multiple mortgages? If you wanted to have more than one property, more than the value of your original property, how much does your ethnic origin, your background, your last name play into a bank's ability to say yes or no? We don't know that because the banks will never say. When one talks about Nigel Farage views not aligning with Coutts Bank, what else has not aligned with certain banks where banks have felt the need to reject customers, bank loans, banking facilities? You see, no one wants to lift the lid on that. Nigel Farage comes with his white privilege and suddenly it's a problem. And this for me is a massive issue because when I recorded the Chase episode, none of this Nigel Farage stuff had happened. But you see how the ancestors operate. We work so hard for our money, not to go and bank with one bank. Everything comes from that one bank. You bank with them, your savings with them, your mortgages with them, your ISA's with them, everything's with them, and then at a whim they can just withdraw banking facilities, maybe because you might do something on TikTok, goes viral, you end up on Good Morning Britain, and suddenly the bank might decide, actually, we don't want you banking with us because we don't align with the ethos of your TikTok. That is a very plausible thing that could happen based on what's happened with Nigel Farage. So the lesson here is, number one, you shouldn't bank with one bank as a single point of failure. And they are, for me, I had one bank, single point of failure. I'm not comfortable with that. I spoke about this in the Chase episode, go ahead and listen. But the reason why I talk about this Nigel Farage, and what happened is, number one, it's just like a nice little breakdown as well, because, not everybody wants to read the intricacies of what happened. But number two, for us to really think about institutionalized racism from the position of banking, and the fact that banks have too much power anyway. And I'm not sitting here telling you banks are racist. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to consider it as a possibility too. Because if they can make decisions based on your personal views, what else? What else? And for me anyway, I just feel like these are rich people problems, because me, I don't bank with Coots. But Coots are owned by NatWest, and that's the only reason why I have an interest, because when a high street bank is owning one of these private banks like this, you have to now start thinking about the high street banks, how they operate in their banking. So yeah, that's that's Nigel Farage. Also as well, I don't know if you have looked on my YouTube channel, At Home with Toya, and I know a lot of people that listen to the podcast don't watch the YouTube channel, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to be honest, I do YouTube because literally I really love editing. I really enjoy editing. I do. And I like vlogging as and when I can or want to. My life's changed so much. Time is always of the essence. And I don't know if I have a lot of time to continue vlogging. But I have all these retrospective vlogs. And I have people who have asked me, I posed a question on Instagram, and people came back and asked me for specific videos. A day in the life of a mum, balancing career, business and stuff like that. And the reality is, sometimes you forget to switch on that vlogging camera. And that's been my reality for the last week because I've just been so busy. But I say all of this to say is I recently released a vlog called The Blundered Gender Reveal. And I revealed the gender of my child. I gave birth in May. I was to term, pregnant for 9 months, and pregnant in private for obvious reasons. And I just didn't share the gender because I didn't feel like I had to. The fact that I didn't share I was pregnant for 9 months will go on record to show you that, I'm the architect of my life. I don't feel like I need to share my pregnancy. I feel like a lot of people overshare, and I don't know whether it's to seek validation, but I feel like pregnancy is such a critical time in your life, and it's such a vulnerable time. I didn't want to share that vulnerability live on social media. I was happy to share it once I'd given birth, because number one, the pressure of all the things you have to do to prepare for a child, also underlying health conditions that I had to deal with. Also, you're walking in the wilderness of motherhood. Like, everyone tells you their experiences of motherhood, but your experience may be completely different. I didn't really want to be weighed down by people's views on my pregnancy and how big my bump is and how low it is. I just didn't give a shit of people's opinion. So when I gave birth, literally I was still in hospital. I think it was like 2 days after I gave birth, or something like that, a day or two after I gave birth. Then I pre-recorded all this stuff, and I retrospectively recorded on a vlog, and then I posted it all up. And it felt really good. Quite empowering, actually. So the blundered gender reveal. I can sit here and tell you, for those of you anyway that don't go on and watch my YouTube, that's perfectly fine. But I am a mother to a daughter. Like, I've got a daughter, and it's been the most transformative period of my life, because I've done the work. Thank God for therapy and doing the work. So for me, I wasn't really bothered the gender of my child. At 28 weeks, I already knew that I was pregnant with a girl. I had the feeling, my ancestors had told me, I felt it. I even dreamt of her name. And that is the name that we came to name her, and she is very much her name. I am going to do a podcast episode called To My Daughter, because I feel as though there's a lot of things that I have been through, and I've shared it on the podcast. I've got a masterclass, the mother and daughter masterclass, and I talk about, and I have spoken about, my turbulent relationship with my mother. My mother is a narcissist, undiagnosed, but she definitely is, and she also played a role when I gave birth. When I say played a role, it was an inactive role, but it was, put it this way, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a mother. Like, and I've never really said that on here before, or said it before, but even at the point of vulnerability, she was still perpetuating trauma. So for me, no thank you. I really am so blessed to have therapy, because what therapy has done is, many years ago when I started therapy, I didn't realise that it was to sow the seeds of harvest now. And my daughter's confirmation to me that I can break generational curses. You know, one can pray to break generational curses and hope they can, but then sometimes the ancestors will give you situations and place you in situations where you have real-time ability to break those generational curses. And I do it every day. Becoming a mum to who we call baby TK, because obviously my name is Toya and my husband's name is Kay, and we will never share her name on social media, and you will never see her face on social media. You'll hear her, might see a foot, side profile, but I just think that my child needs to decide how she wants to live her life. Social media and the dangers of social media are very real to me, and also I just don't want to violate her privacy. And I'm not saying that, you know, people shouldn't put their children on social media. You do what the hell you want to do, but in terms of me and my child, absolutely not going to happen. But at the same time, I feel as though I definitely need to do a podcast episode called To My Daughter, and basically share with you all, like, the road to motherhood, knowing that I was going to have a daughter, and share with you why I've had to make certain decisions. And the tools that I learned from therapy have proven so valuable now that I have her. I can't believe she's 3 months old. I look at her and I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes I have pinch me moments in the shower where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a mum. And it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I say probably the best thing because I think second to that would be knowing that I was pregnant was the best thing that ever happened to me, and then seeing her, best thing that ever happened to me, and now being able to mother her is the best thing that happened to me. So we'll save that episode for another day. This episode is called Don't Schedule Meetings After 4 p.m. So there was an article on Vox.com by Rani Molla, and it's the idea that, you know, work as we know it has changed. You know, people were at work 9 to whatever time, Monday to Friday in the office, and what was actually happening, and we didn't realise it, we were feeding into the economy, because you go to work, you pay for transport to get into work, and then transport costs are always rising, and then you eat lunch. For some people who, you know, don't make lunch at home, you eat lunch, you pay for lunch, and effectively it was normal to be in work Monday to Friday. What COVID did is it hit the factory reset button, and it made people now spend time with themselves in lockdown and ask themselves questions. And the questions it asks is, you know, what does work mean to me? And you got to spend time with your family. People were having children in lockdown and being able to utilize, you know, that time on maternity or paternity leave to spend time with their family. And although society, the government would like us to completely ignore that COVID and lockdown ever happened, sometimes you forget, because everyone's so desperate to go back to business as usual. Business, as in work, is not back to usual, because change has to take effect, and it has. Insofar as organisations now are having to consider hybrid and remote working as a way to operate. There's some sectors of work whereby, in fact, you can't work hybrid or remote, and it's like investment banking. I can completely understand to an extent why they expect people to be in Monday to Friday. But outside of that, and maybe a few other sectors, like, you know, doctors on the front line, I don't see why people should be in full time. For me, the ideal would always be remote. I'm open to hybrid if it's like twice a month in the office. I have no issue. But what I refuse to do is going to an office for the sake of it, so people can see the whites of my eyes. And I say that to recruiters all the time. It's not going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. You know, I'm not here so that you can feel comfortable to pay your lease you've got a lease for 15 years and you need to feel like you're getting value for money, and that's why you force people to come into the office. I don't give a shit about the lease that you've signed up to. I don't care that you feel the need to not trust your staff, and that's why you want to see them again. It's almost like everyone's forgetting all the lessons we learnt from COVID lockdown. It's just kind of crazy. Lockdowns. So in this article, it does also talk about how they link productivity to meetings. So if they put meetings in after 4 p.m, the idea is that if the more meetings you have, the more productive you are, which is obviously bullshit. Productivity doesn't start after 4 p.m. In fact, having meetings after 4 p.m. is counterproductive. I mean, I don't know about you, but after 4, I can't think straight. People's core hours of work is usually in the morning. So that they did some type as part of this article and other articles I read. It says that people's productivity is mainly in the morning or mid-afternoon. When you go to late in the afternoon, people are lagging. And they're lagging because, number one, it's been either a long day, a hard day, or you're heading towards the end of the day by virtue of the fact that it's coming to the end of a working day. Nobody's really trying to have meetings after 4 p.m. But it's about control. And the idea that managers, organisations seek to squeeze every last bit of work out of you to justify either your position or how much they pay you. And the reality is, scheduling meetings after 4 is aggressive, as far as I'm concerned. Personally, I think scheduling meetings at 9 o'clock is very rude. 9 a.m. 9 a.m, I have barely put my knickers on, talk less my clothes. Why are we having a meeting at 9 a.m? But I'd rather a 9 a.m. call than a meeting after 4 p.m. And that's for real. Because it is about control. And when you read this article, it also talks about, managers are finding it difficult to gauge productivity since the shift to hybrid and remote working. And sometimes they are trying to gauge productivity by checking how many emails are sent. But that's not productivity, because there's thinking, work is not always about sending the emails. It's doing the work in the background before you send the emails. And I feel like when we talk about hybrid and the reluctance of organisations to accept hybrid working or even remote working, it's because managers do not know how to manage. Because if you know how to manage your staff, if you know how to inspire your staff, control should be limited. Now, there are people who require a certain level of control because they just take the piss. But when we're talking about professional working environments, it's a manager's responsibility to hire the right people. If you hire the right people, you shouldn't need to schedule a meeting after 4 to ensure productivity. Or you are a meeting heavy organisation, so our meetings after 4 are now company culture. That's bullshit. I'm here to sit here and tell you, as a subject matter expert in my field, the power of being a subject matter expert and aspiring to become a subject matter expert, especially if you've newly come into your field, is that you get to dictate certain things. However, even if you're not a subject matter expert, even if you haven't been in your industry for a long time, setting boundaries is not about how long you've been in a role or how long you've been in a quote unquote professional environment. Setting boundaries is telling people how they are to engage with you and how you want to be treated. Boundaries. Boundaries also sets the tone of how you are to work with people in the workplace. I'm going to be real with you. Before I even became a subject matter expert, I would put blocks in my diary. I'd have blocks after 4, so 4 p.m. onwards, and I'll put a block in my diary from 9 to 10. Because I need, at 9 to 10, to wake up. I need to wake up. Secondly, meetings after 4 don't work for me. Unless I don't have a choice. So if I had a meeting after 4, I might do 4 to 4:30 at a stretch. But there are some organisations that I've worked for as a contractor where they'll put that meeting in, especially for contractors, because with contractors, the view is that, we pay you a day rate anyway, so we're going to squeeze every life out of you. And that's not how I operate. You can't catch me like that. I'm so sorry. I can't deal with it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, number one, you need to read the article, but number two, I have a podcast episode about boundaries. Go and check the catalogue and go and check and understand boundaries, why you need them, how to set them, and the consequence of not having them. But also you need to listen to that episode in conjunction with this episode about not scheduling meetings after 4 p.m. We have the power to schedule meetings, and you have to also teach people how you want to be engaged with. If you're setting meetings yourself after 4 p.m, people are going to set them with you. I was working for an organisation a few years ago, and there was a particular manager there, and she wasn't my manager, but she was a manager. And we were working on a project, and she would always put meetings on Friday, 4:30. Now, the type of business that I was working for was as such whereby, number one, I didn't have much of a family life outside of my partner, and Kay works in a very highly pressurized industry in finance. So he often works quite late, and that's the culture that he's chosen to work in, and that's cool. I haven't chosen that for myself. So on a Friday after 4, you can't catch me. But this woman would always put meetings, and I would always reject them. So when I reject them, she would then put a meeting in for Monday at 9. She did this for a period of 1 month. And then one day, she sent a meeting after 4 o'clock on a Friday, and I rejected it. And then she called me on Teams. So I answered the team. She says, Toya, every time I put this meeting in, you'll always cancel, but you'll accept the alternative. Is there a problem as to why you can't do a meeting at, after 4 on a Friday? So I paused. You know, sometimes why I pause is because I want to give them an opportunity to hear themselves. Also, it's like a sinister pause because I don't know what's going to come, because you came with vim in it. Okay, cool. I said to her, no offense, it's been a rough week. In fact, the whole project's rough. The last thing I want to do is give you less than what you deserve from me in a meeting. And the less than is after 4. But even lesser than that is after 4 on a Friday. My productivity does not allow me to produce the standard of work that I could produce for you if we had this meeting at any other time before 4. But less so after 4 on a Friday. She said, yes, but we pay you up until 5 p.m. I says, you may pay me up until 5 p.m, but we're talking about how I'm able to deliver the best work for this organisation and this project, and ultimately for you, it's not going to be after 4 p.m. And there was just silence. She said, well, I'm going to speak to Jackie about this. I said, no problem. Jackie was my hiring manager. She was the one that approved my timesheets. Jackie never spoke to me about this once. Because I think that when she went to have this conversation, this woman, Jackie must have said, are you okay? That's if she even had that conversation, because I think that something entered her brain for her to realise that there's nothing I've said that was rude, disrespectful, unprofessional. It's the truth. So even a couple of years ago, even I knew at that time that if I am to operate from a place of productivity, it's not going to happen after 4. There have been exceptions, but it's not the rule. And even at the exception, I notify them. I don't usually do this. I say it. But we all also need to understand how to set those boundaries, and how you set those boundaries are putting blocks in your diary. Some people say, okay, if I put a block in my diary, what should I call it? Mental health break. Listen, you see these white people and their fragility, you better learn from them, you know. You better start being a student of white fragility. When they put mental health break, nobody even asks, Bim, mental health and well-being break, you need to put it in your diary, people. Or mental respite, you need to start putting a block in your diary. Put it reoccurring every Friday after 4. No one can argue with that. Listen, people can't pick and choose how to support mental health. For me personally, working after 4 p.m. affects my mental health. Because you're basically telling me to operate when I'm less in the tank. That means you're putting me in a vulnerable position, and you're going to cause me anxiety because you're putting me in the vulnerable position to produce what I cannot do. It's the truth. It's time for us all to really start understanding how to use the system to our own benefits. Nigel Farage is using the system to his own benefits. Coots have now said to him, we are reviewing our decision to withdraw your banking facility. Hello. I recently had an interview, and I know some of you are like, Toya, you're on maternity leave. I know. We're going to get into that anyway, because I found it very hard to start my maternity leave, and I say to start it because hyper independence, because fear of time, because I have worked since I was 15 and a half actually. So maternity leave has been very foreign to me. It's only now that I've started to really get into the flow of it, but we'll get into that in another episode. So I had an interview. The interview was brilliant. It was a 3-stage interview. You're probably thinking, Toya, do you do 3-stage interview? No, I don't, but I'm on maternity leave. So I can take it to 6 stages. I have the what? The time. After maternity, you can sod off with the 3 stages. Fuck right off. So, 3 stages. I'm going to be honest with you. Each interview, I was wearing my pajama t-shirt. Here I was. Go out and speak to somebody. Listen, I believe in my source. Believe in your own source. I'm a subject matter expert. I've worked for this. If I want to wear my pajama t-shirt, you try telling me it's a pajama t-shirt. It's just a bloody t-shirt. Okay? You don't know if I slept with that t-shirt, but I slept with that t-shirt on. Yeah, I did. That's to show you that you don't have to be wearing a suit. You don't. Wearing a suit does not mean you're going to get a job. Hello? You have to have supreme confidence, infinite amount of self-belief, and vim. You have to have it. I have an interview masterclass. If you like, don't go and download it. Nah, for you. I get 95% of the roles I interview for. Technique, subject matter expert, and understanding how to engage with people. Yeah? You have to be able to understand how people move, operate in interviews. Everybody is trying to sell themselves. It's about who sells themselves the best. That's what interviews are about. I had my maternity braids on. Yeah. 2 on each side. I call them maternity braids. I was looking like hello and goodbye. That's how I was looking. I had my notepad. They wasn't expecting that. You see, one thing with me, I'll go into an interview on Teams, and then I will show them, they will see the pen and they will see me folding the notebook. They don't know what to do at that point. They think I'm here for what? I'm interviewing you, you're interviewing me. That's it, it's mutual. So in this interview now, I spoke to one of the key stakeholders. Very nice guy. I really liked him. I really got on with him. Second interview, head of legal. Director, one of the directors of legal, sorry. And then the third one would be effectively my line manager. Now this role is a perm role. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it was a perm role. Now, I've had to consider perm simply because I'm thinking about maybe doing perm for 1 year. But to be a perm, you know the boxes that have to be ticked are very high. I'm open to contracting, of course, but I feel like because I don't know how my daughter is going to react to nursery and stuff, I think maybe 1 year perm and then go straight back to contracting. But being able to pivot is what I teach here anyway. The idea of perm gives me hives. I currently have hives at the moment. It gives me hives. I don't like that level of commitment, but sometimes you have to be selfless as a parent. So for 1 year, I can do that. In any case, the way I look at it is, for me to accept a perm, the box have to be ticked. Uncompromising, okay? So I had the interview now, and with the line manager, she's lovely. She's based in Florida. This is an international company, and I loved it for me. Because that's where we are. We're in an international vibe, baby. So she said to me that they're a very flexible company. In fact, everyone that interviewed me, they all said the same, flexible, They don't expect you in the office. The lady said maybe once a month, twice a month, like that. Or if she's come over from Florida, it'd be good to see me. You know, that type of thing. Cool, we're all grown. I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm going to be 40 soon. I'm grown, okay? So I said to her, I won't be able to start until later on in the year because I'm not like some of you that go round telling everybody that you're on maternity leave. No, I don't. And if you want to know how you account for those 6, 9, 12 months or however long you've taken off for maternity, go and listen to the maternity masterclass when it's released, but also as well, CV masterclass. Go and download it. I talk about stuff like that. Hello. Anyway, so when the offer came, I said to them, thanks for the offer. However, I won't be able to consider starting any role until towards the end of the year. I appreciate the offer, but I completely understand if you can't wait for me. HR was like, Toya, we're going to come back to you. They came back to me. They were like, Toya, this is the start date we can give you towards the end of the year. So I'm like, damn, I'm trying to put these people off me. But clearly, I managed to negotiate an additional £15,000 to the salary that they were offering me. Because this package that they were offering me was not making sense. You see, when they give you an offer, then they add 10,000 package. I don't want your pension because I got my own private pension. But if you want to leave that there, that's fine. Your company bonus of 15%. Not every year are you possibly going to give bonuses. And their bonus is discretionary. So when you're adding the extra 15% on top of the whole total package of the offer, it doesn't make sense. Because some years, even that year, they may not have offered anybody a bonus. And you don't know what the criteria of bonus is. Now, I know that this particular company was actually declared bankrupt a few years ago. I also know they're actually being acquired by a new company. So I know there's going to be salary freezes and possible bonus freezes. I've gone through an acquisition before in a company. I've actually worked on a contractual acquisition, actually. So I know how they all work. You understand? So you can't pull the wool over my blood clot eyes. I've got 4 eyes, plus my glasses. You cannot pull the wool over it, okay? So when I broke down the package and I said to them, because what they try to do is, we're offering you so-and-so salary, and the total package is XYZ, to try and buff it up. I said, no. So I told them, I don't need this. This is what I want. Then they came back to me. They were like, okay, we can offer you the pension. They said, okay, we will, how much do you expect for the role? So I told them, we negotiated. I negotiated an additional £15,000, still kept the pension. The bonus is discretionary, but don't add it to the thing because you may not offer it. They said that they offer travel card, everything. I said, I don't need a travel card. Hello, because I'm working remote, so what's all this? So as I was reading the contract, they didn't put the remote. They just said the place of work. So I said to them, well, we agreed flexibility, and that flexibility includes one or two day a month. But that's not in the contract. So as it stands in the contract, it looks like Monday to Friday from the London office. That doesn't work for me. I said, secondly of all, you've got working 9 to 6. No. Let me tell you something, queens, and I know some of you kings listen to. If I agree to a role that is 9 to 6, having a meeting after 4 is 100% going to happen. So if you work 9 to 6, you can forget not having meetings after 4. That's bullshit. You're going to have meetings. But if I'm working 9 to 5, you can't have a meeting. For me, I can't have meetings after 4 as a frequent way of interacting. No, I can't do it. It has to be an exception. If I'm having a meeting after 4, there's an exception. It's not the norm. But if you're having a role that's 9 to 6, you're at work, you're going to have a meeting after 4. You have to know it now. So I said to them, no, I don't do 9 to 6. I do 9 to 5. I said, I don't mind taking lesser lunch break, but I'm doing 9 to 5, not 9. I agree 9 to 6. They came back to me and they said, number one, they can't put the flexibility into the contract, i.e. working from home and then in the office 1 or 2 days a month in the office. They can't put that in the contract. And number two, they cannot put 9 to 5. Everybody has to work 9 to 6. So I said to them, okay, well, I humbly reject the role. The man came back to me and goes, pardon? He wrote the word pardon. I said, I reject the role. I can't accept this offer. I said, we had an interview, 3 stages. And these are the things that were agreed. But the key words and key theme that kept being sounded is flexibility. But yet, your starting position is not flexible. You're telling me that you can have an arrangement with the manager, but you won't put it in the contract. If that manager leaves, then what happens? You guys could send a blanket email and say, we expect everybody in the office Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. And I will have no contractual leg to stand on because I would have accepted in the contract. You can't be silent about remote and hybrid and just assume that you can just verbally have an arrangement. I need it in contractual terms. You're dealing with a senior commercial contract consultant here. So obviously you would have expected me to negotiate this. Secondly, I don't work 9 to 6. 9 to 6 is not flexible. I said, where is the flexibility in 9 to 6? I said, if I was coming into the office, let's just say Monday to Friday, that means I won't get home until what, 8, 9 o'clock. And then the worst part of it is they said in the contract that they reserve the right to request the staff to work late without, they said without, what do you call it, overtime. They won't pay you overtime, but they expect you to work late. So they can just expect, you could be working on a deal and they just expect you to work. Say if I'm doing a deal with, say, Singapore, the time difference, I could be working until 10, 11 and you don't give me any overtime. That's mad. Post-COVID, everybody's crazy. So obviously HR must have told the hiring manager. The hiring manager sent me an email. She says, Toya, I heard what's happened. I've seen the email exchanges. She says, this is the reason why we want to hire you. Can we talk? I didn't respond to her till today. I have not responded. There's nothing to talk about. Put it in the damn contract and send it to me. You see, when I talk, it seems like we're compromising. Those two things are my non-negotiables. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here by sharing this with you is, number one, whatever is agreed in an interview has to be in a contract. Everybody's doing lip service in an interview. Everybody. You're doing lip service. You're telling them how amazing you are and that your shit doesn't stink. These times, we cannot flush the toilet when you use it. The organization is telling you, they are the best. In fact, they're going to make sure that you become a director. These times, they've got 6 cases in the employment tribunal. Everybody is trying to sell something to you. They're trying to sell something. So in order for me to make sure that I can cash in on some of their promises, I need to make sure it's in a contract. And if you're unwilling to put in a contract, that is a red flag. Oh, sorry, it's a 6 weeks holiday. And these kids, for some reason, they like playing in front of my house, right in front of my office. Sorry. This episode is don't schedule meetings after 4 p.m. But there has to also be a responsibility we place on ourselves. You're working for an organisation whose hours are 9 to 6 contractually. Then, not scheduling a meeting after 4 does not apply to you because they're going to schedule it. Because 4, 5, 6, you still got 2 hours of a working day. Now, I'm not saying you can't try to put in those boundaries. You can, but it's not going to be very easy, is it? How do you account for 2 hours? When I was reading the article by Rani Molla, people were actually saying that people tend to leave the office, if they're in the office, around 4. So they can go and collect their children, so they can try and avoid the rush hour traffic. Do you know what I mean? Nobody is working past 5. So if you're going to put a meeting after 4, when I say no one, I mean, obviously there's going to be someone, but no one around here. You understand? Well, the thing is that organizations don't really think. People will work longer if you allow them to work remote. We'll start earlier as well, because I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, I would start earlier and I would work later. But I think also people need to and organizations also need to consider the fact that even if somebody doesn't schedule a meeting after 4 and leaves the office at 4, the likelihood of them switching on the computer when they get home is quite high too, especially if you know that you've had to leave at 4, to do the pickup or the whatever. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There has to be flexibility. But organizations are so rigid. So we seek to enforce flexibility by putting a contract. Some of you are so afraid to negotiate these contracts because you think they're going to rescind a job offer. But organizations need to know that you will also reject a job offer if they're not unwilling to be flexible, unwilling to negotiate, and unwilling to meet you in the middle. For me personally, if the organization said to me, right, Toya, we cannot put it exactly how you want it in the contract, but what I'm prepared to do is say, right, you can work 9 to 5, we can put it in the contract. Yeah? And we're happy for you to be hybrid, but we're not going to put how many days. Do you know why I could work with that? Because if it's ambiguous, if I say I'm only in once or twice a month and they say they want me in once a week, we'll be arguing. I will still come in once or twice a month. Because the more ambiguity there is, the more I can also use that ambiguity to my benefit. But when you actually have nothing or it's silent, it's a problem. There is a massive multi-international organization that has been operating from a remote and a hybrid position with certain staff. Friday, 4 p.m. Everything happens on a Friday at 4 p.m. They send an email to its staff and says, we expect everybody in the office Monday to Friday. from the 1st of September. I know a couple of people that work for the organisation, one of which said to me, Toya, can you believe it? I said, yes, I can. What you going to do about it? She goes, what do you mean? I said, you took that job during COVID. She said, yeah. I said, did you negotiate the contract? She went quiet. I said, so I guess you're going to be in from the 1st of September then. Some of you will need to really start being smart and stop working from a position of scarcity and fear. If somebody is going to rescind an offer, if an organisation are going to rescind an offer, if an organisation are unwilling to compromise, you've got to know it in your mind already that number one, you're not only interviewing with them, you're interviewing with other people, your other interviews lined up. Even if that's the role you really want, you have to have options. And number two, you have to know it in your mind what you're willing to walk away from, even if it hurts. Because what is for you will never pass you. What is for you shouldn't be painful. Now, some people may turn around and say, Toya, we do not know how much they were offering you in that role, but to be able to negotiate an additional £15,000, and I'm telling you that this contract, this organisation would have been the highest amount I've ever earned as a perm. Bearing in mind, I haven't been a perm since 2016-17. But I'm not going to compromise on the things that I know I deserve, I need to have, because those are my walking away points, and I walked away. I'm not here delivering a negotiation masterclass and talk about walk away points and how to negotiate unless I live in that truth. I live in that truth. I teach what I live. You understand? That's why my podcast, my platform, my social media is not for everybody, because I am not going to sell fantasy. I'm telling you and showing you the truth. Do you understand? I consider myself successful. Everybody has a different definition of success, but I'm successful, and I own it, claim it, and I shout it from the rooftop because I've worked bloody hard and I've been through so much shit. I've shared it on the podcast and still going through so much stuff, and yet I've still managed to fund my own maternity. I still managed to really hit the height of my career and feel comfortable enough to say, right, I keep my foot off the gas now, do motherhood, and then balance motherhood and career. I feel like I have put in the work to be able to harvest the fruits of my labour. God forbid I just accept a role out of desperation. I can't, and even if I'm desperate, I can't be shackled. Every contract can be negotiated, because where there is a cost code, there is a budget. There's a podcast called that. Go and have a listen to it. So when we're talking about don't schedule meetings after 4 p.m, I think what we're really saying is set boundaries with how you choose to engage with organisations. From an interview stage, from an employee stage, from a prospective employee stage, you need to understand the rules of engagement for you and for them. When I read the title, Don't Schedule a Meeting After 4 p.m, one of the first things that came to mind for me was all the things I won't do, and all the things I am willing to do, and all the things I am willing to compromise on. I was working for a tech company many years ago. This particular tech company, I was looking after the Americas, and I say the Americas because that's what we used to say for America, and APAC, which stands for East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Oceania. Yeah, I'm reading it because my pregnancy brain and the way it operates. And I looked after Australia. So the time difference of all of those places is very wild. I remember I had a call with, I want to say China. I can't remember. I think it was China. I got to work at 5:30 a.m. 5:30 a.m. When I was at Goldman, I would sometimes leave my house at 4 a.m. and get a cab to work for 5. So let's not, but times have changed. Because that organisation, that tech company I used to work for, they never gave me overtime. I couldn't leave early to make up the time. I set a tone, and it was therefore expected of me to work late, to come in at mad hours. So basically, if I leave work at 10, and then 10 p.m. I get home at midnight, and then I'm waking up at 3 a.m. leaving my house at 4 a.m. to get to work for 5. How long have I slept, please? I was doing all of this. I was doing this because I wanted to be seen. I'm conscientious. I work hard. I wanted people to call me work hard Toya. Yeah. These times I was burning out. I was having hives. I kept getting allergic reactions to everything because obviously my immune system was shot to pieces. All because I wanted to be recognised. Then when they started telling me that my face didn't fit, yeah, a manager told me that. Remember I told you guys, a manager said my face didn't fit. This guy had just started new, and we're going through our annual objectives. You see, my face didn't fit, but it fitted when it was time to work me like a dog. Yeah, that's when I soon realised I am the architect of my career, and any boundaries that are broken is because I didn't solidify those boundaries to begin with. I have to take responsibility. Talk less of putting a meeting after 4 p.m. Is everybody all right back home? Even if I'm going to put a meeting in after 4, I'm more likely to do it if I work remotely than if I'm in the office, and that's on period. And I don't see a problem necessarily if I do after 4 if I'm working remotely. And that is because I'm able then to switch off after that meeting and do my childcare or do whatever I have to do or go and cook. But when you're at work scheduling the meeting after 4, that meeting will go on until 5:30. What time are you leaving the office, please? After you respond to them emails. Everybody start placing boundaries on how you want to work. It's not the 4 p.m. that's the issue necessarily. It's the lack of boundaries and the need for control of organisations and how they operate in managing staff. We need to start understanding how to navigate work properly. Some of you're not doing it very well. And certain things come up in your workplaces and you're so grateful to be employed that you're unwilling to challenge what makes you uncomfortable. The answer isn't always leaving, you know. Sometimes the answer has to be to challenge certain things that are enforced against you or enforced upon you. I have over 100 episodes now. You need to go and listen to them. You need to go and look at the show notes. Because I don't think there's anything I'm saying here that I haven't capitalised as themes and topics of actual episodes. How is it that we're still talking about boundaries, please? Why are we still... You guys are growing up in the era of social media. When I was going through the hardships of the world of work, I never had social media. It didn't exist. The fact that you have access to social media is amazing to me, because what that actually means is you have access to information, other people's experiences, and also the playbook. The playbook of how to navigate work strategically, still attain success, and try to create healthy environments for you to actually work. It's time now for all of us to really start paying attention. I feel like some of you are not paying attention, but are looking for solutions. But the solution you're looking for lies within you, but you're unwilling to tap into that. Some of you are afraid to say the word no, as if no means you're going to get sacked tomorrow. We're past that stage in life now where organisations... Look at what's happening to the banks. The bank were doing madness. Then the government said hello. Even more with NatWest, because the government have bailed out NatWest many times. You can't then now be using your subsidiary coots to now be telling people you can't bank with you because we don't align with your views. What kind of rubbish? Organisations can't turn around and say, well, you can no longer work for us anymore because, you know, the way you work no longer aligns with our ethos. What do you mean the way I work? Because I don't have meeting after 4. Is everybody okay? Listen, I've got a couple of friends that do prayers on Friday, and they have negotiated into their contract that they work up until a certain time and then every Friday, and then afterwards that's it. Yeah, because they came to me and asked me how to do it, and I told them how to do it. Organisations will do what you allow. Please, when you get a job offer, read your contract, ask questions. You know the crazy thing about that organisation I had an interview with? I know for a fact that if it was left to the hiring manager, the stakeholder, and all the people I actually interviewed, we could have agreed terms that would have been suitable for both. But HR human resources, human relics, thought that they could negotiate, and then they lost me. This is what the manager said, can we talk about? We can't talk. Go and talk to your HR. HR is the one that's been talking to me. It's time for us to really understand what our value is, because when you start understanding your value and your worth, you start putting your foot down. My shoe is size 7. I put my foot down like it's a size 25. Tell me something. If I don't believe in my source, no one will. I have to be my loudest cheerleader. Equally, when I wear the shoe, I know where it hurts. The shoe hurts when I have contracts that don't make sense, or I have a contract but what we agreed in a meeting is very different to what's in the contract, and sometimes it's different because HR are not made aware of whatever was agreed at interview. But how can you talk about flexibility but you're unwilling to put in a contract? So flexible by mouth but not in behavior. Some of us really need to understand and really need to sit down with ourselves and ask ourselves, is this organization for me? If it's not, it's time to look outside. I hope this episode has helped. I will encourage you all to read the article by Rani Molla on Vox.com. I will put the link in the show notes. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've learned from it. I hope that you have learned from what I've shared from my experience as well. More than anything, I just hope that, as always, that the Toy Talks podcast is a safe space for us to share, talk, and honestly, just learn and grow from. I do have a dilemma. I have a couple of them, to be honest, but this one came in first, so I'm going to read this one first. Let me get into it. So this dilemma is called Bitter Cousin. So it's a life dilemma, less so a work one. Hi Toya, I hope you're doing well and the baby. I have one dilemma and would like to hear your opinions on it. Opinions, I think you want to say. I recently got married a few months ago and my man's cousin became so bitter towards me. This girl in front of me always acts good, but behind my back, she's jealous and bitter towards us. Last week, I went on Instagram and I accidentally opened her Instagram stories. Then a few minutes ago, I seen her page gone and frozen. Then I went on her profile, it was gone. So let me ask you this, Queen, yeah? You said you accidentally went on her Instagram page. Okay, cool. And then you said you opened it, and then you went on the profile, it was gone. So how many accidents was that, sis? Let's be honest, you went there because you knew there was something to see. It wasn't an accident. Don't do that. But it's okay. Listen, I used to spy my sister-in-law's Instagram. I don't anymore because I really don't give a shit about her. The thing is, you care about what your cousin-in-law thinks, or at least you know that she's saying stuff, so you want to know. There's nothing wrong with that. We should all lean into the truth. I then went on my man's Instagram to check up on her Instagram, and she has blocked my man. So my question is, why are you so invested on her Instagram? It's because you know that she's posting something about you, or you suspect it. Her mum is also the same, going out there talking about our wedding. I keep ignoring them, but it's just bothering me. Why are they so bitter towards us? Because we never done anything to them. Could be because I and my husband are so private and don't talk about our life to them. The girl is like 28 and never in a serious relationship. I guess that's where the bitterness comes from. Could you advise me if I should address this with her, or should I ignore her at all costs? Thanks. I mean, I think you've answered this yourself. She's bitter towards you because you're living the life that she wished she was living. It's just, she's jealous. Can I be honest with you about something? It is okay for people to be jealous of other people. It's not okay for you to act on it. That's my thing. And when I say it's okay to be jealous, those are natural human emotions, to feel jealousy or to wish you were living that life, or wish, there is it becomes a problem when that bitterness is made up of anger, wickedness, when it's made up of disdain, i.e. when people are jealous and they wish they had your life and you didn't have your life and they wish bad on you. That's when jealousy becomes toxic. But it is also a natural feeling to be jealous of someone. Now, no offense, but if you're saying that you're private people, this, and the third, remember, you have gone to look at her Instagram. She didn't send you there. So you know what you were looking for on that Instagram. You understand? Now you know she blocked you. You're irritated. You're irritated because you're like, why have you blocked me for? What have I done to you? But do you really care? Yes. Should you really care? No. Listen, let me tell you something. I know there's a couple of people around me who are very bitter and very jealous. And I say around me, they're not really around me per se, but we're cordial. And I know they're very jealous. There's somebody in particular that moonlights as a friend, but she's very, very jealous. Extremely jealous. Anytime I post something, she'll always say she has the same, or she has something similar. She always has something to say other than congratulations, well done, or I like it. She has to always, you know them people, if you say one, they say two. You say three, they say four. She's an insecure babe because I'm really not checking for her like that. But if my posting or if my anything unnerves you, that is a you problem. So what you're trying to do now is take on your cousin-in-law's problem that is a her problem. And you want to confront her, or you're asking me whether you should confront her because she's clearly jealous and bitter. But the thing is, you answered the question, you said she's never in a serious relationship. And I guess that's why she's bitter. That could be one of the reasons. Or maybe she's just not happy within herself. Maybe she sees you and she just thinks, well, why you and not her? But my question is, even if you were to address it with her, to what end? What solution are you looking for? Are you wanting her to confess to being jealous? Well, you don't need her to confess because her actions will show you that. Now, I draw the line at like if someone's now lied against you and it's causing you, it's affecting your bag, or someone's lied against you and it's affecting your marriage. And here, now it's time to talk. But minus those things, I don't think you have to say anything. I think the best answer or the best way to deal with it is just to live, because clearly living your life is causing her discomfort. Live it loudly. That's what I say. You see me, I'm unapologetic. If you want to be jealous, that's up to you. But what I never understand is why people are jealous when they see something good, but they're not jealous of the sacrifice, blood, sweat and tears, the pain, the heartache, the tears, the everything. They're not jealous of that. They're jealous of the celebration. Where was you when I was sowing the seeds? That's what I say to people. There's no point being jealous of somebody unless you're going to be jealous of the entire journey. Jealousy is one of those things whereby jealousy can take two forms. And the first form is just jealous because people are jealous. They admire, the admire turns to envy and then it turns to jealousy. Then there's a type of jealousy whereby people act on it. That's when it becomes a problem. I think you just need to accept that. It's more than just a cousin-in-law that is jealous. And what are you going to do? Confront everybody? But my thing is, what do you want? Like, what do you want them to just admit? I'm jealous. What are you looking for? You're not going to have a relationship with her. She's blocked you. She's blocked your man. She's told you how she feels. And in fact, I actually respect her for blocking you. Because the jealousy is so much on her side that she would rather not look on your social media. And she doesn't want you looking on hers. Because if she sees that you've been looking at her social media, it will remind her of how jealous she is towards you. So she just block you. You have to look at it like that. I know some of you are laughing there, but it's the truth. That's how I look at things. There is a certain person who's moonlighting as a friend to me. The person is not a friend. I'm a friend to them. They're damn well not a friend to me. I tell you that much. I just watch her. I use her as my light entertainment, if I'm honest. She is so jealous of me. She can't talk to me. She can't. And when she does talk or send message, you can tell that it's shocking her. But for some reason, she wants me around. I'm on maternity leave. Listen, I don't have time to watch telly. So if this girl wants to be my entertainment, I'm quite happy for her to do it. I don't mind. She's harmless. She's harmless because I don't let her close. I just watch her. She's mad. She's actually very mad. And she keeps wondering, because she says certain things, why I don't engage with her. I don't engage with you because you're mad. Your jealousy is crazy to me because for me, I don't understand. And how I know she's jealous is she can never compliment anything. Rather than compliment, she will tell me what she has that is the same as me. And I'm just like, okay, what do you want me to say to you, girl? What do you want me to say? When I had my baby, she was acting like she was happy for me, but you wasn't, babes. Because it wasn't genuine. I know it wasn't genuine, and you know it wasn't genuine. And I know she probably listened to my podcast. Listen, some people who are the most jealous are your biggest fans. She's your fan. You have to start looking at that cousin-in-law like a fan. Yeah, you're a fan. You see me? I know you're jealous of me. I'll perform loud for you. I'm gonna perform because I know it's gonna eat you up. Sis, you need to spend less time focusing on this cousin-in-law and her bitter mother and focus on living your life. Because the more you shine, the more it makes them angry. My dear, turn the light up. Turn the light up. Sometimes you just have to understand that there's some people that are just not worth it, darling. Not worth it. Is it affecting your money, your bag? No. Is it affecting your marriage? No. Is it affecting your ability to eat? No. Does it affect your ability to do anything? Absolutely not. Now you know how to position her. You've seen her for who she is. Move accordingly. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to leave it there, queens. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Send me a DM on social media. Tell me what you've learned from this episode. I know on Spotify you're able to leave comments and stuff, so leave a comment on Spotify. Obviously, if you listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, you're able to leave a review, so go ahead and do that, please. All the reviews help me, and it helps with the rankings as well. We have been charting, Toy Talks podcast have been charting on Apple Careers podcast. I think the top chart was 19, and the business section was also number 30 last week. So I'm very, very proud, and I'm really, really happy. And I'm really happy with the body of work that we've created here, a catalogue of episodes that you can go back and listen to. And there's enough information on the show notes that will tell you the themes of the podcast episodes. So go ahead and listen. And if you're new here, welcome. We have a plethora of episodes. Go back and have a listen. And I'm very, very proud of the podcast, as I always say I am. Because if it wasn't for you guys, the podcast wouldn't be here. And you all share the podcast, you all speak about the podcast, and we speak about work-related stuff. And sometimes it could be about Love Island, and it could relate to work. Yeah, because life, we work. A lot of us work. We work a lot, and sometimes we have to also see the nuances on everyday life that relate to work as well. Hence the Nigel Farage and the bank and stuff like that. Do you get? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Follow me on social media. My TikTok handle is Toya Washington. My Instagram handle is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks podcast handle is Toya_Talks. I'm also on Snapchat, Toya Washington, all one word. I am also on Twitter, Toya_W, but I'm probably going to come off Twitter, Yeah, I'm on that Instagram one. What do they call the Instagram version of Twitter? I'm on there, Toya Washington. Gonna have what's it? Threads. That's it. Threads. Instagram. It's called Threads. I'm more on Threads than I am on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. Elon Musk. He scares me. He does. But we can get into another episode. If you have a work-related dilemma, a life-related dilemma, email hello@toytalks.com, and your anonymity will be protected. I'm very, very excited. We are coming up to launching the new masterclasses, which will be the interim consulting and freelance masterclass, and also the maternity masterclass. I am literally about to release it. The website will go down for a period of a few days as I upload it. I'm so excited, especially the freelance masterclass. I literally share my blueprint. How to get to 6 figures freelancing. How to set it up, how to choose an accountant, like how to actually contract, building a contractor infrastructure. Do you even know what that means? Well, you will do if you go ahead and purchase the masterclass, which will be out shortly. And when I say shortly, I mean in a matter of days. Can I say that? Jennifer will kill me. But in a matter of days. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Share this episode, share the podcast, share the platform, www.toytalks.com. Catch me on TikTok because I tend to be there quite frequently. I really like TikTok actually. And of course, if you're on YouTube, At Home with Toya, I charter my life, motherhood, career, you know it. And I will see you all next time in a brand new episode of the Toya Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.